Good afternoon. On behalf of my fellow co-chair, Laura Kaplan, it is our pleasure to welcome you to the Commonwealth Institute's 15th Annual Top Women-Led Businesses Awards Ceremony and Luncheon. Laura and I are very privileged to have the opportunity to lead this important and meaningful organization in our community. Our work wouldn't be possible without an inspiring and committed board. Thank you for all that you do for TCI. Also, a heartfelt thank you to today's sponsors, headlined by Kaufman, Rossin, and Wells Fargo, with additional support by Bacardi, the Miller Family Foundation, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, and RBB Communications, as well as an outstanding set of companies and individuals whose names and logos are listed on our event website and in the presentation that you will see on your screen. We're so energized and thrilled to welcome you all today. For some of you, this may be the first time you participate in a Commonwealth Institute event. Our name has a legacy attached to it, so I always like to share how our organization was founded on the principle of a true commonwealth, like-minded individuals, coming together with the common objective of sharing experiences and supporting each other's ongoing business success and personal development. We are proud that TCI has over 30 content-rich programs, currently all virtual, and the Commonwealth Institute hosts annually throughout South Florida. In fact, TCI just celebrated its 23rd anniversary, and our vision remains the same: unleash the potential of women leaders to drive successful businesses and inspire those around them. Which is a perfect segue to today's important event. Thanks to the generous support of Kaufman Rossin, you will be hearing the results of our annual survey, where we take the pulse of women leaders from both businesses as well as nonprofit organizations. Through our proprietary research, we learn about some specific concerns of the women leaders in our community, their goals for the coming year, and their advice to others following in their footsteps. Additionally, on our panel today, we will hear insights and perspectives from a few of South Florida's outstanding women leaders. This links right back to our mission of providing business and professional women leadership development, high-level networking, and mentoring through our content-rich events, terrific members, and programming. We have different options for participation based on your goals. There are brochures in your virtual swag bags that describe membership options. We'd like to take a few moments to highlight a special program for emerging women leaders looking to enhance their leadership skills and acquire the next level skills to help them grow into more senior executive roles. This program is called Strategies for Success, and we are actively registering now for our September 29th start date. I have been part of TCI for more than 6 years. During that time, I have participated in Strategies for Success and then in Executive Forum. I have been fortunate to send nearly 40 women from Starwood Property Trust to Strategies over the past 6 years. I have found that this program is great because it offers a wide variety of leadership development opportunities with rich content and a diverse group of people outside of their industry. What we hear from graduates is that they feel more confident, self-aware, more connected to a broader business community. Now we are going to show a short clip of one of the graduates of Strategies, Lendi Tabora from Bacardi.
Hello, my name is Lendi Tabora. I'm Regional Supply Planning Manager for Bacardi, and I graduated from Cohort 7 of Strategies for Success. It has been truly inspirational. I have gotten and learned about tools, how to develop my career, how to lead others and lead myself, and also how to follow. Because we all got in a true collaboration, learn also how to follow. It has allowed me to learn tools for negotiating and communicating, and I very much encourage everyone to take this part of this program to take you to the next level and to be aligned with the purpose and the vision that you have for your career and your personal development.
As Lendi highlights, Strategies is a smart investment in your people. One of today's top 10 not-for-profit honorees will receive a full strategy scholarship to send one of their high-potential women to this program. Please consider a donation today so we can send more women from our top 10 not-for-profits. So how does this sound? Pretty inspiring, I hope. If you are a TCI member, thank you. If you're not as of yet, please consider joining today. And now I'd like to bring on our South Florida Executive Director, Lori K. Davis, to go over logistics of the event. Let's get the program underway.
Thank you, Lindy. And again, welcome to our 15th Annual Top Women Awards, virtual for the very first time. I'm Lori K. Davis, and I've had the pleasure of an honor of serving you as TCI South Florida Executive Director for over 7 years. And as we're now virtual, it looks a lot different than simply walking to your seat in a ballroom. I'll now take you through the logistics of today's event. Below this video screen, you will see a link to your designated breakout. Please click on that link and another tab will open on your browser. Click the Join Now button and you'll be brought into a video chat with fellow attendees. If you do not see a link below, please use the Meet link in your calendar invite sent to you as a backup coming from PC Experiences. During the breakout sessions, you'll be discussing who from our list of the top 10 not-for-profit honorees you'd like to put forward for the Strategies for Success Scholarship. At the end of the breakouts, simply close out that tab and you'll be right back here to continue watching the show. Enjoy your breakouts. Welcome back from your breakouts. Hopefully everyone had a great time discussing these amazing honoree organizations we have in the nonprofit realm. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you are engaging with us on social media. We would love to hear from you. And of course, we can't host these events and offer our scholarships without the generous support of our donors. Please visit the link in the chat box to donate to our Strategies for Success not-for-profit scholarship fund and help us capacity build for our community's nonprofits. We also wanted to remind everyone that you are able to view each other's profiles in the attendee tab and encourage you to reach out and connect with anyone you might be interested in networking with after the event. The attendee list will be made available for the next 14 days on the event website, so feel free to come back and connect with attendees. Now, I'd like to bring on our two lead sponsors, Doris Nera from Wells Fargo Private Bank and Janet Altman from Kaufman Rossin, to share who their breakout room winners were.
Hi, Lori. We had a great conversation in our room, and actually it was a very tight race between Jack and Jill Children's Center and Habitat for Humanity, and ultimately we ended up with the tiebreaker. So Jack and Jill Children's Center was the winner of our breakout room. It was great, lively discussion. So.
Excellent. And in our room, we had another great lively discussion about all of the nonprofits. Different people were involved with different organizations, so we heard some different things. We had a close race between the YWCA and Jack and Jill, and the Overtown Youth Center as well, all three well-loved organizations, and we did vote for the YWCA.
Great, amazing. Thank you both for supporting TCI and and being a part of our breakouts. For the remaining breakout rooms, we received nominations for Memorial Hospital West. I think we already mentioned Overtown Youth Center, Habitat for Humanity, YWCA mentioned, LSF Health Systems, and let's see, there's one I just can't, having a little trouble reading here, Girl Scouts of Gateway Council, and Epworth Village Retirement Community. So congratulations to all of you. Be on the lookout. As a reminder, we'll be posting the poll at the end of the panel for everyone to vote on their top nonprofit to receive the scholarships. That poll will be located in the tab next to the chat and Q&A section. At this time, I'd now like to pass it back to you, Doris, to begin our ceremony.
Thank you, Lori. I've been on the board of the Commonwealth Institute South Florida chapter since 2014, and it has been one of the most rewarding experiences for me. And I'm so excited to be here with all of you today to support this special event, celebrating our top women business owners. Here at Wells Fargo, diversity and inclusion plays an important role in building a better workplace and is one of our 5 primary values that guide every action we take as a company. With 55% of our global workforce being female and 45% of our US workforce being ethnically diverse, we hold ourselves accountable to ensure that all employees understand their role in building and sustaining a diverse and inclusive culture. Our philanthropy totaled $455 million in 2019. Our employees also care deeply about the communities we serve, and we have introduced new ways to turn that care into opportunities to take action. In 2019, more than 100,000 of our people provided 1.9 million hours of volunteer service, and that's just a brief example of our ongoing commitment to the people and communities in which we do business. So our goal is to combine our giving, our expertise, and our ingenuity in order to move the needle on social and environmental issues. So with that, I'd like to begin our ceremony honoring the top women in nonprofits. Please roll the video. Congratulations to each of you. Moving on, our next video will reveal the top women in startups. Please roll that video. Wow, so many accomplished women already. For our final video, we have the top 50 women in business. Slightly longer video, but please join me in celebrating each and every one of these women. Please roll the video. Congratulations one more time to all of these women. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce you to the moderator of our panel discussion, Janet Cal Altman, who is the marketing partner at Kaufman Rossin, as well as our much appreciated research sponsor. Janet is past chair of Miami's prestigious Women's Fund and friends of WLRN. And you'll find her at the forefront of many initiatives that support the progress of women in our community. Let's bring on Janet and the panel.
Thank you so much, Doris. It's so nice to be here and to see my panelists joining us on the screen. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Good afternoon. So let's start by introducing ourselves. Let's start with Leslie. Please introduce yourself and tell us the story of how you became a top business leader, Leslie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Leslie Baumann. And you can probably tell by my accent that I'm from Texas originally. I'm married a Miami guy. That's how I ended up in Miami. And even though I'm a doctor, I'm a dermatologist, I my whole life loved reading business books. And I grew up worshiping people like Estee Lauder and Helena Rubinstein and other female CEOs in the skincare industry. In 2005, I wrote a skincare book that was a bestseller and led to me starting a company called Skin Tape Solutions. And it's software that 220 doctors around the country use. And I've been involved with TCI now for about 5 years, and it's a great group. I've met so many wonderful women in here, many mentors, many friends. So if you have never been to a meeting before this one, you're going to want to come again because you're going to meet great people.
All right. Thank you, Leslie. Jessica, tell us about yourself. Who are you and how did you become a top business leader?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Jessica Browdy, and I own JKelly Advisors Project Management. We are a certified women-owned business that specializes in full-service, solution-driven project management. We represent owners, developers, equity, and lenders by looking out for our clients' best interests while providing technical expertise and oversight during the various stages of your projects. I became a top businesswoman, I think, by searching for growth, both personally and professionally. My degree is in architecture, and I worked my first few years as an architect until I realized in order to be a good architect, I need to learn how to build. So I left the architecture world and worked for a general contractor for 9 years and really just learned how to sequence work, read technical drawings and specs, estimate work, and manage multiple trades and complex projects. And it came time to move on, and I joined Cressa as an owner's rep, and then stayed on there until they sold to JLL, where I came on as vice president of projects. I left after about a year and just needed a break. It was a tough year for me personally and professionally, and took some time off. And during that time, I got some calls to say, hey, would you run this project? And I kept saying no until finally I was just wondering, how long is the universe going to reach out and keep handing me something in my lap? And I keep saying no. So I said yes, finally, and just since then hit the ground running.
Excellent. Thank you, Jessica. Leah, tell us about yourself and how you became a top business leader.
So it's interesting. My training is nursing. I am a nurse by training, and quite honestly, I didn't want to be a top leader. I didn't want to be a suit in any stretch of the imagination. I wanted to take care of patients. That's what I love doing. But I think there are innate skills and abilities that one has, and of course some amazing mentors along the way that kind of push you, nudge you into what you don't even realize is your destiny. And because I grew up in a household where you weren't allowed to really say anything unless you were going to be part of the solution, I decided that I didn't have to be like the suits I experienced as a nurse. I could do something a little bit different. And with the amazing mentors I've had throughout my career, along with a lot of education and some outstanding experiences, I've just kind of worked my way up through the ranks. In some cases, kicking and screaming, but I realized that I could have a much bigger impact on patients and on healthcare being in a leadership role. So it was a lot of pushing and a whole lot of divine intervention for me.
Excellent. Thank you. And Mindy, tell us about yourself and how you became a top business leader. All right, so we will come back while our stage crew tries to solve this problem. We'll come back and hear from Mindy in a little bit, but one of the things that I wanted to ask you each about, and we'll hear about this from Mindy later as well, is about the role models and mentors you had in your early career. So, Jessica, why don't you tell us a story about a role model or mentor you had early in your career?
Sure. So I think early on, my role model was actually my mom. She gave me super strong work ethic. She was a single mom, worked 3 jobs. So Anne went back to school later on in life while we were going through high school in my end years in middle school. To be a speech pathologist. So she went back to graduate school. So worked 3 jobs, went to graduate school, and raised my brother and I. So she was probably my first role model. And then into my career, probably about halfway into my career, I met a woman who owned a subcontracting business, Eloise. She's on one of the top 50, so congratulations to her. So she owned a subcontracting business and was also a mother. And I said, if she can do it, I can do it. So it was nice to see somebody who looked like me out there doing it, especially in our world, subcontracting and general contracting. It's a difficult business to be in. So she was really probably my first mentor and really took me under her wing and reached out to me and just connected with me. And just having that connection really made me feel supported. And then I'd say lastly, my TCI sisters, joining the TCI forum and being a part of the forum for the last, I think it's been maybe close to 9 years now, has been phenomenal. And just the support and the tidbits of wisdom from each individual woman has led me to be able to start my own business.
Excellent. Thank you, Jess. And thanks for that shout out to our forum. I know I met Eloise and you through our forum, so that's more about the power of TCI.
Yes.
Maybe let's try it again. No, I still can't hear you. Okay, I promise we will come back. Patrick is helping, right? So let's hear another story about a mentor or role model. Leslie, tell us about your early mentors or role models.
Well, I read a book a long time ago called Going to the Top, and it said that you should look at people in different jobs that you might be interested in and learn about them. So in my world, one could be being a dermatologist, one could be doing clinical research, one could be working for pharmaceutical companies, another one could be being involved with skincare brands or skincare brand research. So I met different people in all of those fields and asked them to mentor me and got to know them. And that's really how I figured out what I wanted to do and what kind of subtype of dermatologist I wanted to be. So I actually pursued mentors and I was one of those pushy people that said, please give me advice. And I always like to say, what is the best thing you've done in your career and what is the worst thing you've done? Or, what would you advise me not to do and not waste my time to do? And that has been really, really helpful advice because there's probably a lot of time I didn't waste by getting this great advice from my mentors. Now, because I am in the age that I am, there weren't that many female doctors at the time. So most of my mentors were male, but I have 2 really great female mentors. One used to run Neutrogena, and she taught me a lot about how marketing worked in the skincare world.
Interesting. Yes, well, marketing is always key, right? I still believe that marketing is everything and everything is marketing, but we could debate that, I suppose. And now we have Mindy back. Mindy, how are you?
Is third time a charm?
Yes.
All right. Well,
All right. So,
boy, after all that, I better live up to expectations. Well, thanks for your
let's hear from
patience.
Mindy about you and how you became a leader and maybe a story about a mentor.
So they're actually, I think, kind of intertwined. Thank you again for having me. I feel really humbled to be in this amazing company and not just obviously fellow panelists, but I know the amazing women who have joined us today. I have the real honor of leading my hometown newspaper, the Miami Herald, and Louisville Herald. And like Leah, I kind of stumbled into management. I was a reporter I started my career at the Miami Herald as an intern just a few years ago, and so I thought it was going to be a reporter for life, and it was a female editor shortly after I had my first child, my son, who suggested that I try editing. And I can tell you that for reporters, moving into editing and management is like, you've crossing a line. And so my instinct was to say no. I didn't really want to go into management, but I said, we worked out a bargain, which was you try it for 3 months. And if you don't like it, you can go back to reporting. And if we don't think you're good at it, you can go back to reporting. So I thought we came up with a really fail-safe way to me to try it. I think the lesson for me there was, you can plan your career as much as you want, but you have to also be open to opportunities. And you have to be open to what others might see in you, potentials. I think, that's what we're hearing, that somebody might see something in you or a career path for yourself that you don't see for yourself. And it opens a door that I would never have really, I don't think, investigated on my own.
It seems to be a theme. You're right. A lot of us have gone in not necessarily sure or even not knowing that this was where we would end up. So that's a really good point. Good. Leah, do you have a story about a role model or a mentor to share?
Sure. So as I said earlier, my training is in nursing, and my earliest professional mentors were the preceptors and charge nurses who really taught me the importance of blending clinical and leadership skills with compassion and commitment to safety and quality. So in my office, I still have, and if I had the time, I would pull the picture out. I have a picture of myself as a very young 20-year-old nurse taking care of a critically ill child in the pediatric ICU. And I keep that picture facing my desk as a reminder that when I'm sitting here at this big old desk, making really tough decisions, sometimes controversial decisions, to always be mindful of my roots, where I started from, and why I really am in this business, right? I'm in the business of taking care of patients and families, and that they always have to come first. But as I rose through the ranks, my mentors included, and still do to this day, my mom, of course. I think someone else mentioned their mom, my family members, senior leaders in the various organizations that I've worked for, pastoral leaders, community leaders, and in some cases, those who weren't so outstanding at what they did. I'm a firm believer that you can learn from anyone. And in some cases, in my case, I've been placed in situations to help me learn what not to do. So I've been very blessed, very fortunate to have a wide array of people to mentor me, to push me when I needed a little nudge, and kind of hold my hand through the process. So it's been quite an experience.
I think it's really good to think of our mentors not just as people who supported us and held our hands and people we want to look like, but people we learned from who were not so admirable, or we learned things that weren't what we wanted to follow. I think that's a really good point, Leah. Excellent.
Thank you.
So, let's talk a little bit about strengths as a leader. I know that when we prepared for this, we talked about strengths a little bit, and a few of you had strengths as a leader that you wanted to call out. Let's start with Mindy. What are your strengths as a leader? Where does your strength come from? And then what are your areas for growth? Because we all have those.
Yeah, I think, again, I think there's a yin and yang to that. I like to think that one of my strengths is that I really love collaboration, and I love to cast a wide net when I'm making decisions for ideas and solutions and ideation. I love that, as my staff will tell you. Some of them may be wincing a little bit, because the problem becomes sometimes that when you do that, you can really, sometimes it really delays decision making because you're trying to get so much input and be so inclusive. So I had to try to learn to surround myself with people who can be a counterbalance to that. While really, I really feed off the energy of others. And so it's really important for me to have it, but I also need to understand and have learned and have to reflect that there's a point where you have to just stop. It's like over-reporting, which is also something I suffered from as a journalist early in my career. That's the fun part. You get to talk to people and they have to sit down and write. So I think that's the balance, the yin and the yang. I try to be inclusive because I just love to hear different points of view. And I think that that's how ideas build on each other. But then I've had to learn when to pull the trigger and just make a decision and move forward, because that's really more important than ever now. As everyone here can attest to, right, with the way that all of our industries have been impacted by technology and change.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think things are moving faster than ever, and I think we need to learn a lesson that took me a while to learn, but I'm all in on it now, which is sometimes done is better than perfect. You have to ship it. You have to print the paper. You have to get it done.
Yeah.
So, Leah, you also mentioned you had some strengths that you wanted to talk about and maybe some things where you wanted to grow.
So I think my strengths lie in some of those basic values that you get as you're growing up, as you're being mentored by your mom and other strong women in your life. Honesty and being straightforward is really one of my gifts. I think I make it a point to, at all times, maintain the highest levels of integrity. That's extremely important, especially in my business. And, that's difficult sometimes. You're put into very, occasionally, uncomfortable positions, and you really have to have the courage of your convictions to really stand up and hold on to that integrity. I'm also an excellent communicator and team builder. I've been doing that for 33 years, so I think I've done a pretty decent job with that. But one of the greatest gifts, I think, is the ability to identify talent and have the comfort level of surrounding yourself with people who are far smarter than you are. And it takes time. It takes time in your development. It takes time as you build your own confidence to be okay with having a team of people who are so amazing and so much better than you, because you realize that that talent is going to get you where you need to go as a team. There's not one person, myself or anyone else on my team, that's more important than the other. And I think finally, my growing over time is my lack of fear in taking chances. I think that when you make mistakes is the only time that you're really growing. So you've got to take some calculated risks, and you've got to be okay with making mistakes and okay with your team members making mistakes. Because again, I think really it's through my own personal and professional mistakes that my career has been able to blossom. So that's where some of the strengths lie. I think my opportunities probably are both a double-edged sword. I am very much a visionary. I can see exactly where we need to go, what we need to do to get there. And what I really believe is that, and what I know and have learned through some hard knocks, is that I have to give my team, the ability to participate in building that vision, so that they too can believe in it as much as I do. Because once they do, there's nothing really that's going to stop us from achieving it. So I want to hit the ground running and let's just go, go, go. But the onus is on me as a leader to kind of step back, make sure that it's an inclusive process, and make sure that the vision is something that means as much to them as it does to me. So basically, I need to be patient with myself as well as my team in getting us there. And then finally, I think most people who know me, and some who don't, I shoot straight from the hip. You always know where I stand. And that honesty and that integrity sometimes, again, can be a double-edged sword. I have to be very mindful of my audience and of my delivery, because as a great leaders will adapt that message and that delivery to the audience so that their end goal is met. It can't, there's some people on my team who say to me, just give it to me straight. I just want it straight. And then there are others, when you're too straight, it sort of causes them to retreat. And that's not what you want to do. You want that style and the delivery of the message to bring out the best in who you're working with. So, so just being mindful and being patient, and not letting the New Yorker in me take over the Floridian in me.
I think those are all really great points. And I think that your comment about being okay with mistakes and learning from mistakes is something that I feel is really important and a little hard to do, you know, a little bit hard to get to and even to stick with. But certainly surrounding yourself with a team that is smarter than you, that knows things that you don't. And in my case, surrounding myself with a team that knows things that I didn't grow up with because they're a lot younger than me is really helpful as well. Good. So let's talk about obstacles. Jessica, did you encounter obstacles early in your career? Tell us about the obstacles and how you overcame them.
Sure. I mean, definitely I encountered obstacles. I'd say my first obstacle was realizing after I'd gone to school for architecture, knowing that that's definitely what I was going to be. I was going to be an architect and I was going to practice. And once I got into the practice, I realized, wow, this is not really maybe what I want to do. And maybe I want to learn more sides of the business. And so that was a real eye opener for me. And it was an obstacle because I hadn't figured out exactly what I was going to do next. And like the other ladies have said, I kind of fell into the other opportunity to work in general construction. And then I think growing up through the general construction world, I really ran into a lot of obstacles of being a young woman in mostly working with all men. And so really trying to learn and probably taking more time than my counterparts and spending more time, staying later, trying to make sure that I knew everything so that if I was questioned or when I came to the table at a meeting, I knew what I was going to say. And so I think after, you know, kind of growing and working really hard and through a lot of effort, you know, I gained that respect. But it was definitely an obstacle early on in my career. And I think I was also very blessed to work with a lot of great men who encouraged me and supported me. And also having a wonderful husband who has always been my sounding board. So being able to bounce off of him, and he's in the industry as well, but to be able to bounce off of him and you know, be confident in my next move or where I wanted to go or grow to, having that support has always been, I think, been able to allow me to maneuver through obstacles with a lot of resilience.
Excellent. Leslie, tell us about obstacles and how you've overcome them.
Well, over the years, there've been many obstacles. I was the first cosmetic dermatologist at a university in the country, and people frowned on that. They said it wasn't real medicine. And I have a folder of mean letters that people wrote to the University of Miami of how dare you do this fluff field that isn't skin cancer. And I had to go lecture on things that people didn't think were important. And that really led me to write my textbook on cosmetic dermatology because I wanted to show people that there was a lot of science involved in that. I had an uncle who was very well known because he invented an antifungal drug. And he even said, what are you doing going into the beauty world? That's not medicine. So it took me years, but now it's a very scientific field. There's a lot of research. See the doctors lecturing, and they actually are showing references now and everything. So I think it takes a long time to change people's impressions. But I think one of my strengths is I'm not afraid of failure. I'm not afraid of failure at all. I've failed many, many times. And the way I like to tell my mentees is imagine you're in a horse race and you have 6 horses in the race. It's okay if 5 of them lose. You just need 1 to win. So a failure isn't a failure. It's just one of your horses didn't make it, and you should just know up front that's how it's going to be. So my obstacles have been overcome just by having as many horses in the race as I can have.
Excellent. It's a good strategy. Mindy, obstacles and how you've overcome them.
My goodness. I mean, I think a lot. I think there's been a lot of obstacles. I don't think I faced the huge, some of the huge ones that we've heard from my co-panelists. But I think, I think the biggest obstacle for me has been myself. I think that imposter syndrome. That's the thing that I always have had in the background, right? Playing out like, do you really deserve this job? And, are you, and blurting out things that like no man would ever blurt out when you're given a great opportunity, like, hey, I don't know that I'm ready for that, which, and so I think if I think about what I have, the trajectory of my career, I think conquering my own internal dialogue with really a lot of help from my husband. It helps to have a strong partner, help you think like a man, when you most need it. It has been really important. So that's really what I try to tell young women. I would just say, if you're feeling insecure, run to the bathroom, lock yourself there for a few minutes, and then come back out. Pretend you had allergies if you were, and then just go for it. Because I think you have to exude. I think exude sometimes a self-confidence that we don't have. So it's kind of the fake it till you make it approach that I think I had to learn. Rather than wearing my own insecurities outward, which I don't think is we all know people already are ready to doubt you as a woman and as a woman of color. So the last thing you need to do is to, add fuel to that fire. So I think that's been my biggest obstacle in terms of my career.
Interesting. Fake it till you make it, or I always like to say act as if, is something I hear a lot when we have conversations like this, right? I mean, just act as if you know how to do it. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Act as if you do.
Right.
That's one of those phrases that is always in the back of my head. Leah, did you have obstacles that have come from being a woman, or other obstacles that you want to share and how you've overcome them?
So I've had, I think early in my career, the obstacles were less about being a woman, and it was more related to being an African-American woman. In my earlier years, it was nursing and nursing leadership, and it is a female dominated field. I think as I worked my way up through the ranks, depending on what organization I was in, there were definitely issues related to being a woman. But fortunately for me, I had gotten to that point of my career where I had such amazing mentors who helped to build my confidence and to continually be like that whisper in my ear telling me, you are good enough. You are enough. You are not perfect. You will make your mistakes, but you have worked hard and you deserve to be there like any other man or any other non-African American. You deserve to be there. So, and it took me a long time to get to that point of confidence because you do have so many other voices in your head. And I think that surrounding yourself with a circle of influence or a circle of people who are there to help build you up, i.e. TCI, right? To be around professional women who are constantly looking to build you up, give you opportunities to build them up, I think has helped me to overcome those obstacles. And finally, I got to a point in my career where while I still absolutely suffer from the imposter syndrome, like any other person, male, female, somewhere in the back of your head, you're thinking, oh, what did I get myself into? But for the most part, I believe, I faked it until I made it in terms of believing I deserve to be there. And now I know it. So, but it takes time. And there's always times where you're doubtful. But I am an obstacle remover. I do that for everyone else, and I have to do it for myself. So that's part of my role. And you just keep plugging, and you just keep hitting your head until there's not just cracks in that ceiling and that glass ceiling, but we've shattered it. And my hope is that it gets shattered by the time the next generation, my nieces, my best friend's kids, those women have just fly through the roof.
Nice. It's good to hear about how leaders in our community have felt some of the same things that I feel, and felt some of the same things that I know a lot of the people in the audience feel about, well, am I good enough? Or why don't they think I'm good enough? And I'm going to prove this. I mean, there's lots of different emotions that come up as we think about our careers. So as we're getting to know you all in a general way and asking some of the same questions of everyone, I want to dive a little bit deeper with each of you and ask very specific question for each of you about your own business. So let's start with Jessica. Jessica, you've been an entrepreneur for about 5 years. Tell us why you decided to become your own boss, a little more detail on that than you've shared with us already, and what has surprised you about it?
I think, in my career, I've worked for a couple big companies, and I always felt like I had really good ideas and was constantly trying to make things, the project manager in me, more efficient, better outcomes for the customer. And how could I do that? How could I shorten the A to B time and make sure that the value that's coming out of that is the right value? And so I'd always be focused on that in hindsight. Now I realize that's what I was focused on. And I would come up with these ideas that would either take in a big company forever for the ship to turn for it to be implemented, or if it eventually was implemented, the idea was lost, or it didn't come from me. So it was frustrating, and I realized that by continuing to try to push and steer, I was losing steam. So I wanted to be able to kind of challenge myself and continually be able to, I think maybe it was Mindy who mentioned about reiterating, using the people that are around you. I think Leah said, like, the strong people who are around you that you look up to, that you surround yourself with to make yourself a stronger and better leader. Taking those people and bringing them into the fold and reiterating the ideas to make them the most streamlined, the most value-based ideas, and bringing them to the business. And being an entrepreneur, you have the flexibility and ability to empower those ideas, and also take those ideas from the people who work for you and say, hey, let's come together. We're all sitting here as leaders at the table. Kind of a shared notion of leadership, and getting the best ideas from the smartest people in the room, not being afraid to use them and move quickly and flexibly on those ideas.
Nice. And has that specifically surprised you about being an entrepreneur, how important it is to surround you with others, or are there other surprises?
I don't know that I was surprised. I think it was really fulfilling to see that the ideas were working, that they were successful, or knowing that if something wasn't working, to be able to change strategy and move in a different direction. So, I mean, I think there wasn't a lot that surprised me about being an entrepreneur. I think what surprised me was that I needed to be an entrepreneur, and that was the hardest decision to make.
Excellent. And it seems to have turned out even better than you imagined in a lot of ways, just in terms of the way you're working with others and that collaborative piece you just spoke about.
Definitely.
Good. Leslie, you're a doctor, a researcher, an inventor, a teacher, a writer, a mentor, and more. Tell us the role which you found most compelling in the past several months, and why.
Well, of all the things I do, I like being a teacher the most. And it's funny because when I was mom would always say, you're going to be a teacher. And I just took a very long route to that. Lately I've been doing a lot of webinars, and I write in a lot of derm journals and everything. And I never get tired. I'm a science nerd. I read all the dermatology journals every month. And I love to read nature and science and all that stuff. And I like to take that and then reformat it and give it out to the world in a way that they can understand. And I like to come up with metaphors and things like that. So for me, it's being a teacher. And so I'm fascinated with what's happening online and all the technologies, just like the conference today. The way to communicate with the world and teach the world is getting easier and easier. So with my skin type solutions system that I have, it's software that doctors use to generate skincare regimens for their patients. So I get to teach all these dermatologists and their staff, their estheticians, and even their patients about skincare. And I love that. So I've built this infrastructure where I can be a teacher.
That's great. And I think, many of us in our careers have found ourselves in that teacher role, like it or not. And I think, you rise to it and you say, well, I know something that I can share, and look how interesting and how different it makes the group and the other people that I'm teaching. So that's really rewarding, I think. Good. So Leah, as the CEO of Memorial Hospital West, can you tell us about how your employees are doing and any programs you have in place to help them manage personal challenges during this particular time in our lives?
So, it's interesting. We have always been focused on the people pillar of organization. We've always done an outstanding job, I think, in making sure that they were okay. But as you say, the times that we're experiencing now with COVID, with social injustices, et cetera, there's just so much pressure on so many of our staff members. We take for granted that the nurse who is married, whose husband was laid off, they're now dependent on one salary. Or that school is virtual and I'm a single mom taking care of 2 children, trying to figure out how I worked full-time in a 12-hour shift and at the same time make sure that my small children who are in a virtual learning environment are doing okay. So we offer a variety of programs and services to assist our employees in managing their personal challenges. We have wellness programs to assist our folks to achieve and maintain highest levels of physical and mental well-being, mindfulness programs. We do yoga, acupuncture, Tai Chi. All of this is for free for our staff. We've had to enhance our communication because we take a great deal of pride in spending a lot of face time with our employees, with our physicians, and because of COVID, we've not been able to do that. So we have transitioned, not unlike TCI with this ceremony, we've transitioned a lot of our communication strategy to online, live, but online, so that our employees, our physicians have that face-to-face contact with us. But in addition to that, we've created food pantries for our employees who may not have enough food. We've done food drives for our frontline employees as well as for first responders. We've amped up our financial and retirement planning for employees. We're subsidizing now about 50% of what we call back to school camp. We're doing that in partnership with the YMCA. So for $200 a mom, for example, employee who is a full-time employee who can't do virtual learning at home with their children can take their children to the Y. They have teachers that are there, and we're paying 50% of it to help, help cut the cost for them. We've increased access to spiritual care. All of our facilities have a non-denominational prayer that occurs 3 times a week. So people can have that outlet if that's what works for them. We're offering complimentary meals right now to our employees just to kind of offset the price of having to pay for lunch for those who might be struggling financially. We've also developed what we call the Employee Relief Fund. This is 100% funded by employee donations of what we call paid leave, but some organizations call it PTO, other organizations call it vacation time. But employees who have excess hours donate to this fund. And what happens is an employee, for example, who is behind 3 months in a mortgage can appeal and try to get money from that fund. And oftentimes, rarely, I will say, do we deny that. With someone who's behind in a car payment, we will help subsidize them catching up until the financial state of this country gets back on its feet. And then I think what we've also done to try to really, personalize it is we get a great deal of feedback from our staff and physicians about the thank you notes. We do handwritten thank you notes to our employees. Sometimes we stick a movie card into it. Now we don't do movies because there's no movie theaters open, but we'll give a Starbucks or a pizza gift card into that note, just to say, listen, we noticed that you did something. We know that you've been working really hard and we appreciate you. There's a lot to be said. And I think someone said it earlier. I don't recall which one of my colleagues on the panel did, but there's a lot to be said about the little things that you do to show appreciation. So we've spent a great deal of our time making sure that they have as much support as possible that may have nothing to do with their work life, but everything to do with their personal life. We believe that when people can come to work, not worried about where their kids are, not worried about, how the next payment is going to be, then they're going to give us 100%. Or more importantly, they're going to give our patients and their families 100%. So that's just really a small, I could go on and on and on. I don't want to take up too much time, but there's a lot that we try to do to make sure that people pillar, our most valuable asset, which are our people who are on those front lines, get what they need. Okay, I can't hear you, Janet.
Sorry, I accidentally hit
I
mute.
wanted to make sure you didn't lose me.
No. I am here. So, Mindy, tell us about the changes and challenges in the news business and where you see independent journalism going in the future.
So I think we're at an absolutely pivotal time in this country for journalism, and particularly, I think, a crisis in local journalism. The only industry, right, that's protected by the First Amendment, and absolutely a bedrock to our democracy. So where we find ourselves this year is in a really interesting place. I mean, this is one of the most, I don't even know, I don't find the right adjective. This is one of the most important news years, right, of that I can recall in my history, and we've covered a lot of things. We started off the year with a pandemic, and then we have a historic social justice movement in between, a couple of hurricanes as we lead up to a presidential elections. And so we are, meanwhile, right, the industry has been plagued by a business model, right, that is outdated, that doesn't work anymore, that's relied so much on advertising, and it's been disrupted completely by the Googles and the Facebook of this world. So I think two things about where we are right now. I think number one is that I think that the importance of local journalism and how it actually impacts your life has never been more important. And I think we've been able to demonstrate that. We see so many readers and our increased audience coming to us because, it's not enough to just read the New York Times to figure out what's going on with coronavirus, because it's not telling you what's going on in your own backyard. And so that's our mission. Our staff has been working literally almost round the clock to provide this key news and information to our readers, and they're responding. And I think that that's the silver lining, which is that we are finding a path to a sustainable business model, but it's absolutely dependent on community and audience support. That's the way forward. It's a blend of, yes, of course, advertising, but audience and philanthropy. And we were able to keep our newsroom working when other newsrooms across the country furloughed, layoffs, pay cuts, etc., because we did appeal to our readers, and they responded generously to keep our newsroom working because of the value of the work. So I feel like the crisis has made it, I think, has enlightened our audience to how important what we do is, and that we weren't okay. I think people just thought, hey, they're okay, they're doing just fine over there, and they'll be there. But so I think that has really triggered a really big part of the support from our audience, our readers, the community, foundations, et cetera, to really support the work that we do so that we can just not keep doing what we're doing, but add journalists at this incredibly critical time in our history. I think when we look back, 2020 is really going to be quite a year.
Indeed. It's certainly been an interesting year. And let's talk a little bit about that. Why don't we talk about the issues of social justice and racial equity that have come to the fore this year? Let's start with Leah. Tell us about how you or your company have been affected by these issues directly, and then I'm going to go around the room and ask everyone about that.
So I don't think anyone living in the United States hasn't been infected in some way, by the social justice and racial inequalities, et cetera, throughout the country. I can tell you that and I'll break it down by healthcare system, and then I'll break it down personally, if that's okay with you, Janet. As many organizations across the country, as I said, we've all been deeply impacted by it. And we've always taken a firm stance that behaviors that discriminate against any group are strictly prohibited, and in direct conflict with our mission, our vision, and that's just who we are as healthcare providers. But more importantly, I think with the leadership of our Chief Human Resources Officer, Marques, she really led the charge on what are we going to do now that it's in the forefront of the nation. What do we need to do? So in addition to partnering with a dear friend of mine with the YWCA of Dade and Broward County and their 21-day racial equity and social justice challenge, we've created awareness and importance historical events or awareness around those events like Juneteenth and the Tuskegee experiment. We've acknowledged racial discrimination and events in our community and society, such as the senseless murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. We actually had a prayer ceremony across the entire organization. We're in 4 cities, spread from one end of the county to the other, and it was very moving to see physicians, frontline employees, people from the community on their knees for that same period of time that there was a knee on George Floyd's neck. We have our president, Aurelio Fernandez, sent a message to the entire organization with a call to action for solidarity. It's the first time that's ever been done in this organization or in the history of this organization. We also launched what we call the Daring Discussion Toolkits that went out to 14,000 employees, and it's really to help our leaders start the discussions. Because what really needs to happen is we need to get comfortable having those uncomfortable conversations. We've had webinars for our 1,400 leaders, managers, supervisors. We've launched a survey to those same 1,400 leaders to identify gaps in their learning so that they can get more comfortable having those difficult conversations with their employees. And we've also shared a list of recommended books and resources so that people can start to seek, to learn, to teach, to understand. That's the professional side. The personal side, clearly as an African-American woman, it's very close to my heart. But I have a 17-year-old, soon to be 18-year-old son. He is a 6-foot gentle giant who every time he leaves my home, my heart is in my throat. I have anxiety because I don't know what's going to happen when he's outside of the safety of my home. That is the reality for me, for my family, and for many of my friends and colleagues. And it's not just African Americans, it's Latinos, it's Asians. That for me, as frustrating and as painful as the injustices have been, I feel it's incumbent upon me as the matriarch of my family, as a senior leader in my organization and in my community, to seek to understand all sides. So not just the side that I'm on, but even the side that may be offensive to me or that may be uncomfortable for me. I made a conscious decision some time ago to change the things that I cannot accept. So, there's that poem that says, accept the things I cannot change. I can't go by that anymore. Not as a leader, not as a mother, not as a mentor. My role, as I see it, not just here in the organization, but in the community, is to make sure that we are the change that we want to see in the world. So that's where I am. That's where my organization is. I'm extremely proud of how the Memorial Healthcare System really took it and ran with it. It being social injustice, racial inequalities, and making sure that we're doing the best we can to educate, teach, train, and hopefully change the culture of some of the thinkers out there.
Wow, that's really a lot of emotion and action and thinking and feeling about this. Yeah, we just have 2 more minutes left. Who else wants to talk about what's going on in your world because of these racial and social justice issues?
I'd love to talk about it. I'm very, very interested in this. We have a multi-ethnic staff at Skin Type Solutions, and we did the 21-day challenge from the YWCA and discussed it. And it was wonderful. There were things that people didn't know. And going into it, everybody thought, oh, I already know all this. But we learned so much, and as a group, being able to talk about it. And I think it's so important to have that awkward conversation. I'm on a lot of different advisory boards, and I've been bringing it up and just encouraging people to talk about it, because I personally have never been racist, but I didn't really understand the difference between being racist and being an anti-racist until this movement. And I feel like if we all get together and make racism uncool, it's going to make a big difference. And the thing is we've all let people slide with little comments. And I think we need to learn that you can't do that, just like you were saying. And you need to just look at them and say, really? Did you really just say that? Because if we all got together and we did that, after a while, people would stop and it would be uncool. So with our group, we're being very active. I met Tina Brown here at TCI, and we're going to be doing some mentoring with the Overtown Youth Center and some other things. And I was so thrilled to see how passionate my staff was about it. But I want to encourage everybody there in the audience to try to bring up the conversation with at least 2 people, because you're going to be surprised, no matter what race they are, you're going to be surprised what you learn about the way people think. And hearing the other side of it is important, because we can't all communicate with each other if we don't understand where we're all coming from.
Marvelous. Good. I think that's a really good way to end our conversation. We didn't have a lot of questions from the audience, so I'm going to encourage you, and Lori's going to encourage everyone in a few moments to connect with our panelists. We're going to have opportunities to do that in the future. But I want to thank all 4 of you so much. It was such a great conversation. I want to keep talking, but I know that we can't. So thank you all so much for being with us, and thank you everybody for listening in on this great conversation.
Thank you so much.
Lori, I think we're going back to you.
Wow, what a powerful panel. Thank you so much for sharing your journeys on your path to success and your pearls of wisdom with us. Your insights are an absolutely wonderful tool to help us all in our businesses and in our leadership roles. I'm inspired to do more, be better, and be a better leader, and I hope you all were as well. Please remember that for the next, and Janet mentioned this, for the next 4 Wednesdays at noon, to spend more time with each panelist. Don't forget to register for their Connection and Conversation Zoom sessions. And please take a moment now to take our poll. We're about to close it out, determining our not-for-profit scholarship recipients. And it's not too late to donate and send more than one through Strategies for Success. As a matter of fact, great announcement, we just had a donor who's sending number 2 and number 3 through. So thank you again to our sponsors, our volunteer breakout room moderators, our raffle collection donors, our panel, and our board for your support. This event and events leading up today are perfect examples of what the Commonwealth Institute is all about. Please don't forget to register your high potential women for our upcoming fall session of Strategies for Success starting on September 29th and ask us for more information about anything TCI. It's now time for our Wrestle collection drawing. We had well over 400 tickets. Drum roll, please. Our winning ticket is number 262, and that is Heather Gately. Heather Gately at Rider.com. Congratulations, Heather. And lastly, our scholarship winner is, hold on, let me pull up. I just got the poll results. Number 1 is Overtown Youth Center. You've got a scholarship. Number 2 is YWCA. You have a scholarship thanks to our recent donor. And number 3, Jack and Jill Children's Center. You also have a scholarship. Number 4 is Habitat for Humanity. And we have a tie between LSF and Epworth. So if we get more donations, we can send more. And I want to just say thank you for being with us on our first virtual major event, and have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you so much for joining us. Bye, everyone.